What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast. My name's Andy Herman. It is May 14th, and I got to tell you guys, at no point in time ever did I expect that on May 14th, 2021, that I would be breaking down and talking about Blake Bortles as a member of the Green Bay Packers and what it means potentially for the future of the quarterback position and Aaron Rodgers and everything else. So why the heck not? What else could be going on? Let's talk about Blake Bortles as a member of the Green Bay Packers. And the title of this today is Making Sense of Blake Bortles, because I feel like there's been this idea out there that, well, because the Packers signed Blake Bortles, maybe that means that the Packers know that Aaron Rodgers isn't returning. Others believe that it's just a camp arm and no big deal. So what exactly does it mean? Why did they sign him? All of that. Let's get into all of it right away, and we can kind of go from there. So I think the question that not everyone, I think most people probably don't care all that much, but the question that those who are interested are asking is, can we read anything into this Blake Bortles signing as to what the future is for Aaron Rodgers? And ultimately, my answer to all this, before we even jump in too far, is no. I don't think we can read in much to this, and I'll get to why. And let's just start by role playing this out. Let's say right now, as we sit here on May 14th, that Aaron Rodgers was the happiest Green Bay Packer quarterback of all time. Jordan Love is the backup, and they don't have any other quarterbacks on the roster. If that were the case, let's just say that were the case, they would still need a number 3 quarterback at minimum, potentially even a 4th quarterback. Usually you go into the offseason with at least 3, if not 4 quarterbacks, just because, again, if you've ever been at a practice, you need multiple quarterback arms. There's drills going on at all sides of the field that, the quarterback is running those specific drills. You might have 3 different areas where quarterbacks are working on different things. And it's just good football basics to have multiple quarterbacks that you're trying to develop and see what they have and whatever, who knows what may come of it. So ultimately they would have signed at minimum a 3rd quarterback anyway, even in the ideal Rodgers Love scenario. So again, let's say everything's happy. They've got Rodgers as their 1, Love as their 2. What type of quarterback would they have looked for in that situation? I think generally speaking, how you want to run it is you have your hopefully all-pro quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. You've got your number 2 quarterback, and then you usually have a couple guys that are vying for that developmental quarterback position. Usually maybe like a 7th rounder and an undrafted free agent, or a couple undrafted free agents, whether it's like a Tim Boyle and a Manny Wilkins, or like a Graham Harrell and, Taysom Hill, or whomever that are battling it out for a potential developmental roster spot. And the hope there is that one of these guys shows enough in camp that they can at least make it to the practice squad and shows that they're worth developing. Every once in a while, a quarterback comes along like a Tim Boyle, where he was, really so good in that training camp that they felt they couldn't even subject him to the practice squad, that they needed to put him on the active roster. And they kept him on the active roster and actually traded away Hundley, and then, got rid of Deshaun Kaiser and so on and so forth in the next few years so that they could keep Tim Boyle. So that's ideally what you're looking for, is those developmental quarterbacks in the normal situation. But a couple things are at play here. First of all, the developmental quarterbacks that were available, like the undrafted free agent types, it was a really, really bad crop of undrafted free agent quarterbacks. You even looking for like somebody like Tim Boyle, who just has a strong arm but maybe struggled in college, you just can't find them. Like Jamie Newman was somewhat interesting. That was probably the one guy that kind of made some sense. But there's 32 teams vying for that type of player. Philadelphia ended up getting them. And there was really not even that much at the end of like day 3 that you could have taken a flyer on. And again, had Green Bay taken a quarterback even in the 7th round, it would have been freak out mode based off of how everything was set up that weekend and everyone talking about the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and everything. So there just wasn't great options available. Even if, as you're looking at it, like some of the guys as like, street free agents and stuff, you've got like the 2 guys that are coming into minicamp this weekend for tryouts. It's like Kirk Benkert and it's Chad Kelly. Like those are the type of players that are available. There's no top end type of developmental quarterback that's out there that you can say, oh yeah, bring in that guy. That makes a ton of sense. Maybe he still has something there. Like nobody's still available at this point that has that sort of ability. So what you're looking for is a serviceable arm that maybe fits for a couple different reasons. And I think the other thing here is that not only are you generally looking for those, developmental quarterbacks, but In this situation, it's a little bit different. Aaron Rodgers has gone on record. And again, we're still role playing the idea that Rodgers and Love are in a perfect situation and they're the one and the two. Rodgers has gone on record as to saying like the quarterbacks in that room need to be able to test him and quiz him and keep him on top of things and make sure that he's, just sharp with everything. And secondly, Jordan Love as your number two, he really needs a veteran there to kind of guide him and mold him and kind of show him what to do in given situations. As far as Aaron Rodgers go, there's a good chance that Jordan Love's not ready. I mean, I can guarantee you he's not ready to be the guy that's challenging Aaron Rodgers with, and making those prepared notes and testing him and quizzing him. Like, nor would you expect him to be that guy. So bringing in a veteran for that sake, for Aaron Rodgers to have somebody in the locker room that can kind of do that, maybe relate to him a little bit better, actually has some value. And for Jordan Love, having a veteran in the locker room, Aaron Rodgers can't take Jordan Love under he's trying to win a Super Bowl this season. Again, assuming everything's good. Like, he's trying to win a Super Bowl. Like, I'm not saying that he's putting off Jordan Love, or if Jordan Love asks questions that he's not going to answer them or things like that. That's not how Aaron Rodgers operates. He will absolutely do everything in his power to help Jordan Love when he can. But that's just not ultimately like the timing that he has for everything. He has a million different things to worry about with his teammates and getting everyone on the same page, being a leader of that team, all of it. So having another veteran there that can answer some of those questions and take Jordan Love under their wing makes some sense. Now, it is absolutely a fair question to ask, is Blake Bortles the right person for either of those jobs? Can he be the one that is, keeping Aaron Rodgers on his toes and, quizzing him and making him study harder and things like that? That's a fair question. And is Blake Bortles the one that you want, with his arm around Jordan Love's shoulder and being like, this is how you do things? That's a fair question as well. And the resounding answer to both of those questions may be no. But again, you get to the point where, they signed him on May 13th. There's just not many other great options available. So again, if everything's in a perfect situation, I don't think you could rule out a quarterback like Blake Bortles because of all the reasons I just mentioned and because there's just not many other options out there that make a ton of sense. So let's go and kind of take this a step further. We now know that things right now are not perfect with Aaron Rodgers. So let's take that perfect scenario aside and say, now let's look at what's actually happening today on May 13th. Why would this potentially make even more sense if Aaron Rodgers is unhappy or there is some question mark as to whether he's going to be in Green Bay? First of all, it means you need another arm as soon as possible so that when OTAs and mini camps come along, you have somebody, especially a veteran, who can come in and help you run those practices. You obviously can't just go into that with Jordan Love, and you can't just go in with Jordan Love and like an undrafted free agent. You really need some sort of veteran who has experience that can do this to lead you and get you through camp so that things just aren't completely disjointed as you're trying to run joint sessions and all those sort of things. So it's incredibly important, if Rodgers isn't at mini camps and OTAs, that you have a player like Blake Bortles that is experienced this, can go through this, and can help the team kind of at least stay on the same page and stay together. It of course helps that he knows Nathaniel Hackett's offense as well. And I think ultimately it really helps you that you bring in this guy, if completely everything hits the fan and all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers retires, that you at least have a veteran who has some starting experience and again is familiar with Nathaniel Hackett. And heck, they should have gone to a Super Bowl together if it weren't for a incorrect ruling on a Miles Jack fumble, right? So all of those things are the case. Is this ideal? Hell no. Is this the quarterback that you would ideally want to be bringing in really at any point? Hell no. But you can understand the pieces and, of the puzzle of how they could potentially get to this point and maybe wanting to bring him in. Again, most importantly, there's just not very many other good options at this point. And again, the familiarity with Nathaniel Hackett certainly makes some sense. So what does Blake Bortles bring to the table? Not a ton. He has some mobility left. He still has a fairly solid arm. No developmental potential. He's not going to just all of a sudden be like, all right, he's in this Matt LaFleur system and now everything clicks and he's ready to go be a Pro Bowl guy. Like, we know what Blake Bortles is by this point. Can he be in and come in and be a spot starter, maybe go 1-2 in a 3-game stretch if Aaron Rodgers is out? Yeah, probably. He can probably be that guy. If you have to start with him for any significant period of time, you're in big trouble. If you need him as, the core back, it's not an ideal situation. We're not fooling anyone here. This is again what was there. And I think ultimately his familiarity with Nathaniel Hackett, it does help him in this scenario. I do think that Matt LaFleur's offense would help him out if again, things completely went to hell. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this is a training camp arm, and they had to add another quarterback. And I can't make a good argument and sit here today and say there's any other quarterback, developmental, undrafted free agent, veteran, anyone that's on the free agent market right now that makes any more sense than Blake Bortles. And I would go as far to say, again, this means nothing, but if I were in the spot and with Brian Gutekunst, Blake Bortles is probably the guy that I would have called in this situation. As weird as that may sound, I think it's actually the right call given the situation. So the questions remain. Do the Packers make this move without Rodgers? I don't think so, but it's really tough to say, and it's certainly within the realm of possibility. Can we read anything into this? Does this mean that Aaron Rodgers is on his way out? No, hell no. We can't read anything into this. If anything, it is much more likely that this is just a signing so that they have somebody in camp that can help them run practices, and the likelihood that he actually makes a 53-man roster going into the season, unless things have gone completely haywire, are very, very slim and not likely. So finally, my conclusion here, likely camp arm, nothing more. And I would even expect a fourth quarterback to be signed, and I would actually expect either Swag Kelly or Kurt Benkert, whoever performs better at the rookie minicamp this week. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if one of those two players is added as well. My last thing that I want to quickly discuss here is all of this, and people know I am a noted Tim Boyle stan. I'm putting my Tim Boyle fandom to the side for a moment. Period. End of story. As a peer analyst, whatever you want to call me, doesn't matter. It makes zero sense. In hindsight, it made zero sense at the time that they moved on from Tim Boyle the way that they did. And it's tough to tell the exact timeline because we don't know when this entire Rodgers-Packers situation started happening, but it was intimated that this has been going on for a couple of months, which would have put this previous to them not putting a restricted free agent tender on Tim Boyle and letting him walk in free agency. And if they had any iota that this was going to be an issue with Aaron Rodgers, the fact that they let Tim Boyle out the door is a fairly egregious error, in my opinion. Now, maybe Tim Boyle goes and never does anything, but you spent 3 years? 3 years developing him, keeping him on the 53-man roster, having him beat out Brett Hundley and DeShone Kizer, and last year Jordan Love, just to let him walk for nothing. It never made any sense. And you might say, Andy, like $2.2 million, which is what the restricted free agent tender would have been, like that's a fairly significant chunk of money when you're really tight up against the cap. And maybe that doesn't make sense when they were trying to get as much money as they could to keep their players. Okay, but Blake Bortles, or a vet minimum guy that you're bringing in that spot, is about a $900,000 plus player, right around there, player. It's about $1.3 million more. You can find that easily in the NFL. So $1.3 million more to keep Tim Boyle around rather than Blake Bortles should be an absolute no-brainer. Even if they didn't know it, keeping Tim Boyle on for $2.2 million, again, $1.3 million more, $1.4 million more than somebody that you're bringing in on like a vet minimum, still makes so much sense because there's a couple different scenarios that happen here, right? Let's say you get to the end of training camp and you realize, you know what? Rodgers is our 1, Love is our 2, and we don't need Tim Boyle. You can release him, no dead money. You didn't pay a dime extra to keep him on that restricted free agent tender, and you let him walk, no harm, no foul. Secondly, if he goes out and he kills it in preseason and looks amazing, you literally might be able to recuperate draft picks for him. So even if Rodgers is great, Love is great, Boyle has a huge preseason, and you say we don't have a roster spot for him and Love needs to be the 2, maybe you get a conditional 7th. Maybe it's nothing, but you could potentially get something for him. So that didn't make sense. If you knew about the Rodgers thing, it really didn't make sense. There was absolutely no downside to keeping him on the roster in any way, shape, or form other than about $1.3 million, which, again, you can easily find. And if you don't need him at the end of camp, you cut him, no harm, no foul. You get that $1.3 million back. So I have a really hard time understanding that move. The only thing that I can think to give them the benefit of the doubt is that Tim Boyle said, hey, you've got Rodgers, you've got Jordan Love. There's no opportunity for me here. I would really prefer to be somewhere else and have an opportunity to go play. and they did him a solid. And maybe that's the case, and if so, so be it. At the end of the day, as much as I appreciate Tim Boyle, this is a business, and you have to be the best team that you can possibly be. And the best business decision that they could have made at that point, Rodgers or no Rodgers, would have been to keep Tim Boyle up until the end of training camp, when you realize either, yes, we need him, no, we don't, but we can trade him, or no, we don't, we can cut him, and we don't have any penalty for doing so. It makes zero sense that they would not have kept him around. And now instead, you're scrounging the bottom of the barrel for quarterbacks rather than having a guy who does have developmental potential, and you don't know how good he can be until he gets on the field. We know what Blake Bortles is. We know what Kirk Benkert is. We probably know what Chad Kelly is. Tim Boyle showed legitimate signs of potential during his time in Green Bay and was your number 2 quarterback all last year, so much so that Brian Gutekunst said, we can win games with Tim Boyle at quarterback. That was his quote. It makes zero sense, that decision, certainly in hindsight, but even at the time. And I think that was an egregious might be harsh, but it was the wrong choice by the Packers front office. That's going to do it for me today. I'll be right back here tomorrow with a brand new episode. I promise you, at least I hope, unless something crazy happens, I will not be talking Blake Bortles, but we'll definitely have something fun to discuss. So make sure to join me tomorrow. Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to check out today's audio podcast. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.